Planet of the Apes was the first movie to kick off a science fiction franchise, so it's time to travel back in time to 1968. Welcome to Cinema, where we focus on the film. I'm Josh, this is Simply Cinema. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this movie. Was it good, bad, or somewhere in the middle where you don't personally connect with it? And just, we're going to be leading up with this review series, leading up to Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes in anticipation for the latest movie, but going right into it. George Taylor and two other astronauts crash land 2,000 years into the future, and when they find themselves on a desolate planet that with no way to escape, ruled by the Planet of the Apes and everything that is going on as they take over this primitive use of humans, there's something that's going on that's not as it seems. And going right into the positives, overall, this was a first time watch for me, but that was a pleasant surprise, not knowing too much about the upbringing of this franchise, and I only watched the first two of the updated trilogy as of watching this video and of watching all of them for the first time, and generally I enjoy the atmosphere to this film, what it has to offer. Charlton Heston is great in his performance, and having the two other astronauts and all of the culture that you expand within this planet as a whole, this film takes its time, which goes about an interesting impact to the nature of how you're exploring this planet and the desolation and the mystery behind what is all going on behind it. There's some plot twists and reveals that have been spoiled since then, and I'm not going to go over any of that in this video, because while I generally get a picture of certain things that go on at the end, there is mostly an impact where I wasn't familiar with what the spoilers were, what to look out for, and so I had a generally good time. I had some surprises about the way that were still impactful because of the nature of not knowing full well of what was going to happen and all the mysteries that's going about all along the way, and just what you're getting with the characters, with the monkeys, and this primitive species of humans that are mute, and none of them are able to communicate except through nonverbal language that isn't intelligent by the nature of what you're getting with the monkeys and the apes and how they're able to speak using human language as English, and what you're getting through that, the society that is established, and it's all built around this mud hole type of society, or these sand houses that are generally structuralized in a way that makes sense as the government is working within the apes, with them being in control of these primitive humans, and going within this sci-fi atmosphere. It's fun to explore, and getting these astronauts, what they're getting pulled into, goes about different twists that I did not expect for a couple of the astronauts to be pulled in a direction that was unexpected for the nature of how you expected the astronauts to be surviving throughout this film. The dangers and threats that this film presents is something that takes a toll to the numbers of what you're really getting out of this, and while you're still exploring in nature what you're getting captured or how you're exploring more of the culture of the apes becomes something appealing and intriguing just by the nature of what the apes have to question about the validity of the humans, or of the astronaut humans being 2,000 years in the future from when they originally started, and how you get that understanding and what you're uncovering along the way becomes something more appealing to what I just enjoy from the general adventure through this sci-fi that's kind of slow in some means, but builds its pacing up quite well for the rapid ideas that it has to offer along the way. But going into some of the mixed elements, yes, this is a slow sci-fi film that has its mystery vibe that can be good, but for some people, the slowness of the film can take away from the impact at the end. For me personally, there's just something that had parts of the film going a little bit slower than the others, or a structural part of the ending didn't necessarily build up in the right way, where I didn't know how much longer was left with the film, to where it didn't naturally flow with a good first, second, and third act, and then having that surprise ending. What you all have to unpack from this film can either work really well or it just doesn't work or connect with you as impactfully, and just generally the vibe of the characters, it takes a turn on what you're expecting, which can create a good twist for generally what you're expecting out of these astronauts, out of these apes, and just the general vibe of those characters as a whole. While you're getting some good costumes and good effects, it is taken back to the 1960s to where some people may not be as appealed or impressed by the nature of those unless you're really into cinema, uncovering the idea that this is a film that was really great for its time. The way the costume and makeups were made up to be, they're not quite to the level of what they are today, which can take the general audience member back from being fully impressed by it. And so while I was quite impressed by what you're going after, there's maybe something that doesn't click for everyone in the audience based on what you're getting from just the age of this film, even if it was good for its time. And going into some of the negatives, there are some parts of the camera movements that are a bit too shaky. They go along the hills or down different treks that goes about different ways. That's fancy with its film editing or film chops, but it doesn't ultimately feel like it has the appropriate mood to what it was trying to present, or just being shaky in general, not necessarily taking out of the picture of a clear general vibe of what's going on, but still not exactly having a clean-cut picture that you're able to really follow through what the approach to the audience is and what they're communicating. And also with the ending scene, well, it still had the impact for me not knowing full on what the twist was actually going to be, even though I could kind of linger on the thought of what it was going to be, having seen a particular poster in the past and a general picture that I'm not going to show throughout any of this video, just to leave you in surprise if you have not seen it or have thought about it recently. But there's also just that moment near the end where, even though the pacing is good most of the way through, even at a slower duration, there's something about that in-between time between how it goes from the third act and almost having this epilogue sort of section, which has that twist because of the way it's broken up, feeling like the pacing of the film has gone on a bit too long than it needs to be, maybe chopping off little bits here and there, but ultimately just the progression with sending an astronaut off to somewhere else in ways I'm not going to spoil, and leading it into a section that feels like it would go on much longer, but with that surprise ending, it kind of cuts it a little short from the general gist of what you're getting. But as a whole, it's a great film for its own means as a sci-fi film, and especially great and well-deserving for what it sets up as the first sci-fi franchise. And so that's just my personal thoughts on Planet of the Apes from 1968, which I have to rate a 7.5 out of 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of this film, if you've seen it, and make sure to like this video, subscribe if you're not already, to join in this film culture community where we talk about films each and every day. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.